Hey guys, this is John Rovira. I'm going to be working on a new project this quarter. For now, I'm calling it Layout Queries, but hopefully I'll change the name of that in the near future. So basically what this project is going to be is it's going to be a web platform where users can mock up the layouts for their front-end web projects. So they'll be able to drag and drop these header components, navigation elements, image carousels, all these front-end components to kind of model what they want their project to look like. And based on that information, the application is going to provide real deployed examples of websites that use similar layouts, or at least components, so that the users can have these examples of isolated code that supports those components on those real websites, and just helps them kind of get a better idea of how to build out their entire front-end web project. So in terms of goals, I ultimately just want to create these better learning examples using the open source aspect of the front-end web, so that users can get better insights into production code, to best practices, into how to even start building out these front-end web components, and so that they can have these tailored kind of lessons and support tools for their individual projects. And in addition to that, kind of on the side, this project is going to serve as hopefully a good example of how to use Unravel's capabilities that Josh has been working on. So in terms of the timeline, I don't really have times associated with these, but this is a general, I guess, development approach that I want to take. So first, I'm going to be building out these mock-ups for what the project's going to look like, and most importantly, that's just going to give me an idea of how and what data I'm going to need from the Unravel API, how I need to format the data of the layouts that users are going to build within the application, and kind of how the intermediary steps are going to work in that interaction. So after that, I'll be able to get a better idea of what the data set's going to look like with each Unravel API request and response. I'll get a better idea. After that, I'll need to figure out how to model the layouts that users build within the application, so that I can send that information to the Unravel API. And after that, I'd like to implement the functionality just with hard-coded data, kind of get more detail-oriented development out of the way. From there, I'll be able to test how users, the degree to which users can build out these components given the output of the application. So given these sets of websites with similar components to the ones that they want in their project, I want to see if that's actually effective in helping them build out their own components. After that, I think the next step will be to actually implement the layout builder. I don't think it's really that important before that, since the main goal of this is steps 4 and 5 basically. So after that, I'll be able to test how effective and how efficient that layout builder is, and kind of, since this idea of an Unravel API is still in the future, at that point I'll be able to figure out how I can actually get this running in the real world where Unravel's API isn't hard-coded. On the technology side of things, basically the main thing is that since there's so much information being passed back from the Unravel API and being passed to the Unravel API, that data is going to be pretty messy and very varied from component to component. And ideally, these responses from Unravel should be cached within the application, so that it can also serve as a library of components and their implementation methods. So I want to use a NoSQL database, and considering familiarity, that kind of leaves me with mean or meteor, kind of leaning more towards the mean stack side of things. But the architecture is pretty simple, straightforward, kind of what you'd think it would be like. On the client side, users are going to drag and drop these components onto their layout canvas. The application will kind of compile all of that information into a string of JSON objects representing that layout. I can pass that over to the Unravel API through the server. And after I get each response, I can like separate that into component by component so that I can save that information in the database so that so like the stuff that I'll be saving is like the website address, the kind of implementation. So like for an image carousel, whether that's like there are many different ways to implement an image carousel. So like the general approach that implementation is taking, the code itself. So both on the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript side of things. And in addition, since there's probably going to be some error, at least in the initial stages of the application, in terms of like the quality of responses that are rendered for the user, I'd like to have like a rating system so that users can kind of give feedback on to how relevant the results are. So I'd also like to save that for each component that is saved. Research side of things, I guess like the most important thing, since this is like very different from any tool that is currently available, is whether or not like this method of learning and using examples from real websites is even useful, and if it's more effective than like current learning tools such as tutorials and like CodePen, for example. So that's going to be a big research question. I need to figure out how I'm going to exactly measure that. And in addition, the project's also going to be, again, like a really good way to kind of dig deeper into the possibilities that Unravel offers. So, yep.